In a grand mansion nestled in an affluent neighborhood, the large, ornate door of the estate creaked open, revealing a young woman standing at the threshold, her face a mixture of shock and sorrow. Maya, the black maid, had worked in this luxurious home for the past 3 years. Her hands, though rough from constant work, had polished every corner of this house with care. She had been the backbone of the household, handling everything from cleaning to preparing meals. But today, she was about to lose it all. The tension in the air was thick as she stood there, on the verge of being dismissed, her heart heavy with the weight of the injustice she was about to face. Inside, the mansion buzzed with the usual elegance, but there was an undercurrent of disdain as the wealthy family members and staff went about their business, oblivious to the turmoil unfolding just outside. Maya had always known her place in this world, but today, it felt like the foundation beneath her was crumbling. Her employer, Mr. Hargrove, stood across the room, his arms crossed, his expression cold and unfeeling. He was a man of power, a wealthy business tycoon who had built his empire from the ground up. He wore his wealth like armor, dismissing anyone who didn't share his status. "Maya, I have been patient with you, Mr. Hargrove said, his voice sharp, but I can't allow your constant mistakes to continue. I'm afraid I have no choice but to let you go." Maya's heart sank. She had always been diligent, always giving her best, but it had never been enough in the eyes of her employer. He had no idea of the sacrifices she made just to keep this job, the hours of work that left her exhausted and drained. She stood there, silent for a moment, as the weight of his words crashed over her. The room was cold, the silence hanging in the air like a thick fog. Her hands trembled slightly, but she steadied herself. "I know I've made mistakes," Maya said quietly, her voice calm despite the storm brewing inside her. "But firing me won't solve anything. I've worked hard for you. I've given my all." Mr. Hargrove's face tightened with impatience. "I'm done arguing with you. Pack your things and leave," he snapped. He turned away from her, signaling that the conversation was over. Maya's breath caught in her throat as the reality of the situation hit her. She had no choice but to leave. But she wasn't going to let him have the final word. "You may not understand," Maya said, her voice stronger now, "but there is more to me than you think, and one day, you'll see that." As she turned to leave, the door closed behind her with a soft click, and she walked out into the cool evening air, her heart heavy with disappointment, but also with a strange sense of resolve. The lights of the mansion flickered behind her, but the path ahead was uncertain. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. As Maya walked away from the grand mansion, she felt a cold wind bite at her skin, the soft drizzle of rain soaking into her jacket. She kept her head down, trying to ignore the sting in her eyes. The weight of what had just happened was too much to bear. For 3 years, she had worked tirelessly for the Hargroves, cleaning, cooking, taking care of their every need, but none of it seemed to matter now. She had given everything she had, yet all she was left with was an empty bag and the echo of her employer's harsh words. The door of the mansion closed behind her with a soft, final click, sealing away the life she had known, and she wondered if she had ever truly belonged there. She walked down the long, winding path, leading away from the mansion, the lights of the estate fading in the distance. The path ahead was dark and unfamiliar. The only sound was the soft rhythm of her footsteps. As she tried to make sense of the overwhelming emotions racing through her mind, she could still hear Mr. Hargrove's voice, cold and detached, telling her to pack up and leave. He hadn't even given her a chance to explain. He hadn't understood the sacrifices she had made, the long hours, the sleepless nights, the pain of living paycheck to paycheck. But Maya knew that she wasn't just walking away from a job. She was walking away from a life that had never really been hers, a life where she was constantly reminded of her place, where she was nothing more than a servant in someone else's world. She was tired of being invisible, tired of being overlooked, tired of being treated like she didn't matter. The city felt different now. The air felt heavier, colder, as if the world itself had turned its back on her. But as she walked further into the night, something inside her began to stir. She had always been quiet, always kept to herself, always followed the rules. But she wasn't going to let this moment define her. Maya wasn't just a maid. She was more than that. She had dreams, ambitions, and a mind that had never been recognized by the people who employed her. She had kept those dreams hidden, buried deep inside her because she knew no one would understand, no one would listen. But now, as she walked down the empty streets, something was different. She felt a surge of determination building within her. Maya had been underestimated her whole life, but she was done letting people think they knew who she was, what she was capable of. She had more to offer than anyone realized, and it was time for the world to see it. Her mind raced with thoughts of what she could do next. She had no idea where she was headed, but for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was finally in control of her own destiny. She wasn't going to let anyone, not even Mr. Hargrove, define her worth. She would prove to them all that she was more than just a maid. She was a woman with strength, intelligence, and a future that she could shape for herself. Maya wiped the rain from her face, her heart pounding with newfound resolve. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but she knew this was not the end. This was just the beginning. She took a deep breath and walked on, determined to find her own way. The following morning, Maya woke up early, her heart still heavy from the night before. The sun was barely peeking through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the modest apartment she had rented for the past few months. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Her eyes lingered on the clock as she slowly rose from her bed. The weight of the decision she had made still sinking in. Last night, she had walked away from a job that had defined her for so long. And now, she was faced with the uncertainty of what came next. Maya pulled on her jacket, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that had settled in her chest. She had no idea how to move forward, but she was certain that she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. She had been invisible for too long. She knew she had to make something of herself, even if it meant starting over. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, breaking the silence of the early morning. It was a message from her old friend, Grace, who had helped Maya get the cleaning job at the Hargroves mansion in the first place. "Hey, Maya, I heard what happened. Are you okay?" Maya smiled faintly, touched by the message. She didn't know if she was okay, but she knew she would be. Maya quickly typed a response, letting Grace know that she was doing fine, despite everything. Then, as she stared at the screen, an idea began to form in her mind. Maybe it was time to take a risk. Maybe it was time to finally put her knowledge and skills to good use, to find something that would allow her to step out of the shadows and into the light. Maya had always been good with numbers, with organizing, with understanding the complex details of contracts and agreements. It was something she had learned on her own over the years, reading business books late at night, when she wasn't cleaning or taking care of the Hargroves. Maybe this was her chance to use her abilities in a new way. The idea of working in finance or business wasn't as far-fetched as it seemed. Maya knew that the right opportunities were out there, and she was determined to find them. With a new sense of purpose, Maya stood up straighter, ready to take on the challenges of the day. She had no idea how long it would take to get her life back on track, but she wasn't going to let that stop her. She had always been the quiet one, the one who stayed in the background, but now, she was ready to step forward and take control. She left her apartment and walked down the busy street, feeling the cool breeze on her face. It wasn't a grand walk, just a simple journey through the city. But for Maya, it felt like the first real step towards something bigger. She didn't know where this path would lead, but she knew she couldn't stay in the same place any longer. As she passed by the bustling coffee shops and crowded storefronts, she felt a sense of determination welling up inside her. She was no longer just Maya, the maid. She was Maya, someone with potential, someone who could make a difference. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was ready to face it head on, whatever it took. And as she walked, she couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, she had been right all along. She wasn't just a maid. She was a force waiting to be recognized. As Maya walked into the bustling downtown area, she could feel the weight of the world lifting off her shoulders, even though the path ahead seemed uncertain. The streets were crowded with people rushing to work, cars honking, and the distant hum of city life filling the air. She had been out of work for less than 24 hours, and yet, something had already shifted inside her. She wasn't just walking to a new job interview or applying for another position. Maya was walking into a new version of herself. She had decided that this time, she would not allow herself to be defined by others. She would define herself. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her out of her thoughts. It was another message from Grace. Maya, I know a place that could use someone with your skills. It's not much, but it's a start. A legal assistant position. It's not glamorous, but it's something. Let me know if you're interested. Maya stared at the message for a moment, her fingers hovering over the screen. A legal assistant. It wasn't what she had imagined herself doing, but it wasn't too far from the work she had done for the Hargroves. Over the years, Maya had learned how to read and understand legal documents, terms, and contracts. She had spent late nights studying business books and watching documentaries, trying to learn everything she could about finance, contracts, and business deals. She had seen firsthand how important those things were, especially when her former employer, Mr. Hargrove, would sign off on major deals without understanding the full implications. Maya could do this. She had always been good with details, and now she had a chance to put that knowledge to use. She quickly replied to Grace, telling her she was interested. It felt like the right opportunity to take. The next day, Maya found herself sitting across from a woman named Karen, the manager at a small legal firm. The office was modest but professional, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and paper. Maya felt nervous, but there was something else: excitement. This could be her shot. So, Maya, Karen said as she shuffled through a few papers, I've looked at your resume, and I'm impressed. But I have to ask, why legal assistance? Why this job? Maya took a deep breath. She had prepared for this question. I have always had an interest in understanding how contracts and legal agreements work, she said, trying to sound confident. I've done some work in the past that involved reading and organizing contracts, and I believe I can contribute here. I may not have a traditional legal background, but I am determined and a quick learner. Karen looked at her for a moment, her face unreadable. Then she nodded. Well, we'll give you a chance. I can't promise this will be easy, but if you're serious, you could learn a lot here. It's not glamorous, but it's a start. Maya's heart skipped a beat. This was it. She had made it past the first hurdle. Thank you, Maya replied, her voice steady. I won't let you down. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of learning. Maya spent hours each day reading legal documents, organizing files, and answering phone calls. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was challenging, and that was exactly what Maya needed. She was finally putting her skills to use, finally making a real difference in a way she hadn't imagined before. The long hours were exhausting, but Maya was driven. Each day, she learned something new, and with each new lesson, her confidence grew. She wasn't just the maid anymore. She wasn't invisible. She was someone who had the ability to make an impact, and she was determined to prove that to everyone who had ever doubted her. The work was tough, but Maya was tougher. She knew this was just the beginning, and she was ready for whatever came next. As the weeks passed, Maya's role at the firm began to grow. She started taking on more responsibilities, becoming more involved in the actual drafting and reviewing of contracts. It was challenging, but Maya loved every minute of it. And for the first time in a long while, she felt like she was on the right path. She wasn't just doing what she had to do to survive. She was building a future for herself. Maya knew that there would be more challenges ahead, but she also knew that she was ready. She had proven to herself that she was capable of so much more than anyone had ever given her credit for, and she was just getting started. Weeks passed, and Maya settled into her new role at the legal firm. It wasn't easy. The work was demanding, and she often stayed late, poring over documents, double-checking every clause, and making sure she understood every detail. She had no formal education in law, but she was determined to learn. Each day, she felt herself growing stronger, more confident in her abilities. But the real test came when the firm's senior partner, Mr. Jacobs, asked her to help with a high-profile case. It was a corporate merger between two major companies, and the stakes were enormous. Maya knew that if she succeeded, it could change everything for her. Mr. Jacobs pulled her into his office one afternoon, his expression serious. Maya, I need you to review the merger documents. I trust you, but this is a big deal. If there's a mistake, it could cost us millions. Maya swallowed hard. She had never been asked to take on something this important before. She had always been in the background, doing the smaller tasks, never in the spotlight. But now, Her boss was looking at her like she was the key to the firm's success. "I won't let you down," Maya said, her voice steady, even though her heart was racing. The next few days were a blur of intense focus. Maya stayed up late, reviewing every page of the documents. The more she read, the more she understood. She began to notice subtle clauses that could be risky for the firm. Her instincts kicked in, and she found a potential flaw in the merger agreement. It was a legal loophole that could lead to major financial repercussions if not addressed. Maya knew she had to bring it to Mr. Jacobs, but she wasn't sure how he would react. She wasn't a lawyer. She was just a maid-turned-legal assistant, and she had no formal qualifications. But she couldn't ignore what she had discovered. The next morning, she walked into Mr. Jacobs' office, holding the documents tightly in her hands. "Mr. Jacobs, I think I found something," she said, her voice low but confident. He looked up from his desk, surprised. "What is it?" Maya hesitated for a moment, then explained the issue in the merger agreement, pointing out the specific clause that could cause serious legal problems. Mr. Jacobs stared at the papers for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then, slowly, he nodded. "You're right," he said quietly. "This could have been a disaster. Good work, Maya." For the first time, Maya felt a sense of pride swell in her chest. She had done it. She had saved the firm from a major mistake, and it hadn't been by chance. It was because of her skills, her determination, and her willingness to keep going, no matter the odds. Later that day, Maya was called into a meeting with Mr. Jacobs and a few other senior partners. They discussed the merger, and Maya's discovery became the focal point of the conversation. She had saved the deal, and the partners were impressed. "Maya, you've done something remarkable," Mr. Jacobs said, his tone more respectful than it had ever been before. "We'll make sure your contribution is recognized. You've earned it." Maya's heart soared. She had finally proven herself. She wasn't just a maid or a cleaning woman anymore. She was someone who mattered, someone who had the skills and knowledge to succeed in this world. Her journey had just begun, but she knew she had already made an impact. As she walked out of the meeting, she couldn't help but smile. The world had underestimated her for so long, but now, she was on her way to something bigger. She was ready for whatever came next. The weeks that followed Maya's breakthrough at the legal firm were filled with a sense of accomplishment, but also a deepened awareness of the challenges ahead. She had earned the respect of her colleagues, but with that respect came expectations. The pressure to continue performing at her best was constant, and although Maya had always thrived under pressure, the weight of responsibility was beginning to feel heavier. One evening, as she sat at her desk reviewing another set of documents, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. She had come so far, she had taken a risk, stepped into the unknown, and had proven herself capable. But deep down, she still carried the same doubts that had haunted her for years. Was this really where she was supposed to be? Was this the life she had always dreamed of? As she stared at the stacks of paperwork in front of her, her mind drifted back to her time with the Hargroves. She thought about the long hours, the relentless work, and the emotional toll it had taken on her. For all that she had accomplished, she couldn't forget the way she had been treated, the way she had been made to feel invisible. It wasn't just about the job. It was about proving to herself that she was more than what others had assumed about her. That she was capable of succeeding, not because of anyone's approval, but because of her own strength and determination. That night, she stayed late at the office, long after everyone else had gone home. The city outside was quiet, and the only sound in the office was the soft tapping of her keyboard. Maya knew that the work wasn't over. She still had a long way to go, but something had shifted inside her. She no longer felt like an outsider in her own life. She had a place here, a role that mattered, and as she sat there, surrounded by legal documents and contracts, she realized that she had built this for herself. She wasn't just a maid anymore. She was someone who had earned her place, who had fought for her future, and who was ready to take on whatever came next. The next day, Maya was called into a meeting with Mr. Jacobs. He sat at his desk, his expression thoughtful. "Maya," he began, "I've been hearing great things about your work. You've been a tremendous asset to the team, and I think it's time we discuss your future here." Maya's heart skipped a beat. She had been waiting for this moment, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure what to expect. "Mr. Jacobs continued. We're going to be opening up a new department in the firm, and I want you to be a part of it. It's a big responsibility, but I think you're ready for it. Maya's mind raced. A new department? A promotion? She had worked hard to get to this point, but she hadn't expected this. I don't know what to say, she replied, her voice steady but filled with surprise. I'm honored. Thank you. You've earned it, Mr. Jacobs said with a smile. But remember, this is just the beginning. We're counting on you. As Maya left the office that day, she felt a rush of emotions. There was excitement, pride, and a bit of fear. But most of all, there was a sense of validation. She had made it. She had proven that no matter where she started, no matter what others had thought of her, she could rise to the top. The journey had been difficult, but it had shaped her into someone stronger, someone who was no longer afraid to take risks. She was ready for this new challenge, ready to prove that her success was not just a fluke, but the result of her hard work and determination. As she walked out of the office building, the city seemed to shine a little brighter. Maya knew that she had not only changed her own life, but she had also begun to change the way people saw her. She was no longer invisible. She was Maya, a force to be reckoned with. Months passed, and Maya's life continued to unfold in ways she had never imagined. The new department she had been promoted to was challenging but incredibly rewarding. She had proven herself time and time again, but now, the stakes were even higher. She wasn't just part of a small team anymore, she was leading one. As the head of a new division within the firm, Maya felt both the weight of responsibility and the thrill of accomplishment. She had come so far, and yet, there were days when doubt would creep in, like an unwelcome visitor. Was she truly ready for this? Was she good enough to lead a team? The pressure was immense, but she had learned, over the months, how to navigate the complexities of business. Her instincts, which had once served her well in the background, were now guiding her through the challenges of managing a team of people with more experience than she had. One afternoon, Maya was reviewing a new contract when her phone buzzed with a message. It was from Grace, her old friend, who had helped her land the job at the legal firm. Maya, I saw the news today. The message read, I'm so proud of you. You're really doing it. Keep going. I always knew you could. Maya smiled as she read the words. It had been years since they had worked together, and Grace had always been there for her, encouraging her to take risks and believe in herself. The message was a reminder of how far she had come and how much she had changed. But there was more to Maya's story than just the promotion. There was something deeper at play. It wasn't just about success or proving the doubters wrong. It was about reclaiming her sense of self. For so long, she had been defined by the roles others had assigned to her. She was the maid, the invisible worker, the one who cleaned up after everyone else. But now, she was Maya, the woman who had made it on her own terms. The woman who had turned her back on the life she had known and had the courage to create a new one. As Maya sat at her desk, reflecting on how much she had changed, she received another message, this time from Mr. Jacobs, her boss. Maya, the message began, I've been watching your progress, and I'm impressed. Your work has been outstanding, and I think it's time we discuss the future. Her heart skipped a beat. Another meeting with Mr. Jacobs? She had been with the firm for a little over a year now, and this felt like another turning point. A moment where her future would be decided. The next day, Maya walked into Mr. Jacobs' office, her palms slightly sweaty. She had learned to remain calm in these meetings, but this time, her nerves were on edge. Mr. Jacobs looked up from his desk, his usual stern expression softened by a hint of respect. Maya, he said, you've been an incredible asset to this firm. Your leadership has been nothing short of exceptional, and I want you to know that your contributions haven't gone unnoticed. Maya nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She had worked hard for this moment, and it was finally here. I'm offering you a new role, Mr. Jacobs continued. We're expanding, and I want you to lead one of our key divisions. This is a big responsibility, but I know you're ready for it. Maya felt a lump form in her throat. She had come so far from the days when she was the invisible maid in the mansion. She had fought for every inch of this success, and now, the firm was offering her more than she had ever dreamed of. I won't let you down, Maya said, her voice steady, despite the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. As she left Mr. Jacobs' office that day, She could hardly believe what had just happened. She had done it. She had built a life for herself, one step at a time, against all odds. She had proven not only to others but to herself that she was capable of anything. Maya had learned that success wasn't just about where you came from, it was about where you were going, and she was just getting started. Months went by, and Maya's life had changed in ways she couldn't have imagined when she first walked away from the Hargroves mansion. She had risen through the ranks at the legal firm, building not only a career but a reputation as someone capable, determined, and fiercely intelligent. She wasn't just surviving, she was thriving. And yet, despite all her success, there were still moments when she found herself wondering if the journey had been worth it. It wasn't that she regretted her decisions. She had fought too hard for this new life. But there were times, particularly when she thought about her past, when a deep sense of loneliness crept in. She had left behind the life she knew, the people who had underestimated her, and the family who had never seen her for who she truly was. Maya had moved on, but there were still parts of her past that lingered in the background, haunting her every now and then. One evening, after a long day at work, she sat in her small apartment, the glow of the streetlights casting long shadows on the walls. Maya felt a pang of sadness as she looked out the window. It had been a long time since she had seen her mother, who still lived in the small apartment in the less affluent part of town. Maya had been so busy, climbing the ladder of success, that she had neglected to visit, neglected to call. She had promised herself that once she made it, once she had achieved something of her own, she would go back, show her mother that all the sacrifices had been worth it. But as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, that promise felt like a distant memory. Maya was so consumed with her work, with the pressure of constantly proving herself, that she had forgotten to slow down, to appreciate the people who had always been there for her. With a sigh, she grabbed her phone and dialed her mother's number. The phone rang several times before her mother picked up. "Maya, is everything okay?" Her mother's voice crackled through the line. "I'm fine, Mom," Maya replied, her voice soft. "I've just been busy. I wanted to check in, see how you're doing." Her mother's voice softened, and Maya could hear the faint smile in her words. "You don't have to check in all the time, Maya. I know you're doing great things." "I know, Mom, but I should be there more. I've been thinking about it a lot lately." Maya paused, trying to find the right words. "I've been so caught up in everything, and I forgot to be there for you. I'm sorry." There was a long pause before her mother spoke again. "Maya, don't apologize. You've worked so hard to get where you are, and I'm proud of you. You don't have to prove anything to me." Maya could feel the weight of her mother's words, and it brought a rush of emotions she hadn't been prepared for. Her mother had always been her biggest supporter, even when Maya didn't believe in herself. "I know, Mom, but I still want to do more for you. You've already done more than enough, sweetheart. You've changed your life, and that's all I ever wanted for you." Maya felt the tears well up in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, Maya." After they hung up, Maya sat in the silence of her apartment, her thoughts swirling. Her mother had always been there for her, even when Maya had felt invisible, even when she had been stuck in a life that seemed impossible to escape. And now, Maya realized that the success she had built for herself wasn't just about proving others wrong. It was about showing herself, and her mother, that she was worthy of a better life. As she sat there, a sense of peace washed over her. She had come a long way, but she knew that the journey wasn't just about the career or the accolades. It was about finding balance, about remembering the people who had helped her get to where she was, and about never losing sight of who she truly was. Maya stood up, wiped the last of the tears from her eyes, and smiled. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, she felt grounded. She knew that no matter what happened, she was ready to face it. And with the support of the people who truly mattered, there was nothing she couldn't overcome. It had been a year since Maya first stepped into the legal firm, and what a year it had been. The young woman who had once been invisible, overlooked, and underestimated was now a leader, respected by her colleagues, and even admired by the senior partners. She had transformed her life from a maid working in the shadows to a woman with authority and influence. And yet, as she sat in her office one late afternoon, watching the city below from her window, She realized that the journey was not just about career success or recognition. It was about something much deeper. Maya had built a new life, yes, but it was not the life she had imagined when she first walked away from the Hargroves mansion. She thought success would fill the emptiness, but she had learned that true fulfillment came from balance. It was about finding peace with herself, reconnecting with her roots, and knowing that her worth wasn't defined by her job title or the opinion of others. The phone on her desk rang, pulling her from her thoughts. It was her mother. "Maya, how are you, darling?" Her mother's voice crackled through the line. Maya smiled softly, feeling the warmth in her heart. "I'm good, Mom. Really good. I've been thinking about you a lot lately." Her mother laughed, a sound filled with love. "I'm always here, sweetheart. You've come so far. I'm so proud of you." Maya paused for a moment, gathering her thoughts. "I just wanted to say thank you, Mom, for everything, for always believing in me. I couldn't have done this without you." There was a brief silence before her mother spoke, her voice full of emotion. "You've always had it in you, Maya. I just gave you the love and support you needed to believe in yourself. You've done all of this on your own." Maya's eyes filled with tears. She had worked so hard to prove herself, not just to the world, but to the person who had always seen her potential. "I'm not finished yet, Mom," Maya said, her voice steady but full of determination. "I've come so far, but there's still more I want to do. I have dreams, and now I know I can achieve them." "And I know you will, darling," her mother replied, her voice warm and encouraging. "But always remember, you're not alone. You've got a family who loves you." Maya smiled through her tears, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. She had everything she needed right now: a career she was proud of, a sense of purpose, and a family who loved her unconditionally. The doubts she once carried had melted away, replaced with a quiet confidence that she could face whatever came next. As the days passed, Maya continued to excel in her career, leading her department with grace and intelligence. She never lost sight of her roots, and every time she faced a new challenge, she reminded herself that she had already overcome so much. She wasn't just the woman who had worked as a maid in a mansion. She was the woman who had risen from the ashes of her past to create a life she could be proud of. She had proven herself, not just to others, but to herself, and that was the greatest victory of all. Maya knew that the road ahead would not always be easy, but she was no longer afraid. She had the strength, the wisdom, and the support she needed to navigate whatever came her way. She wasn't just a survivor, she was a force to be reckoned with. Maya had finally realized that success was not measured by how far she had come, but by how much she had grown along the way. And as she walked into her future, she knew that her journey was far from over, it had only just begun. In this powerful Black story, Maya's journey of resilience and self-discovery takes center stage as she rises from being a maid to a respected leader in a prestigious legal firm. Through determination, hard work, and an unwavering belief in her own potential, Maya transforms her life and proves that the limitations others impose are nothing more than obstacles to overcome. Her story is a testament to the power of perseverance and how Black stories can inspire and empower others to break free from the confines of their past. From the darkness of being underestimated to the bright light of success, Maya's path is one that teaches us all the value of inner strength and self-belief. This Black story isn't just about a job or career, it's about reclaiming one's identity, finding purpose, and knowing that we are all capable of achieving greatness. As Maya's life unfolds, we see how Black stories resonate deeply, teaching us the importance of not just surviving but thriving in a world that often underestimates us. Maya's breakthrough at the legal firm marks the beginning of a journey that will inspire countless others who feel invisible or trapped by their circumstances. Her story is proof that no matter where you start, you can rise, you can break through, and you can succeed. If you're looking for an empowering and inspiring Black story, Maya's journey is one that proves anything is possible with determination and faith in oneself.